Hello, hello. Playing some coin poker today, and we're going to be looking over some spots that I'm playing today. Let's see how this goes. Here we have 3 tables going on right now. Playing short-handed on this one. This guy's a fish, this guy's a regular player, I'm pretty sure. Just folding this. No king high suit. Pretty bad connectivity. Even though I have to defend more in position there versus this guy, but still don't think we're going to be defending this wide of a hand. Blinds are all fucked up here, just because every time you start a table on coin, it just like auto posts your blind. So, all right, here, pretty easy folds, pre-flop. Trying to get some more tables going. We'll see what happens. Gonna hop in this one. This actually looks like a pretty fucking good game. King 776. I don't think this is good enough. If double seated, we would have opened here. That seems like a clear fold. And we're just gonna leave this at 4 tables for right now. Here we have the queens. 7 high suit. I think this is fine to just check here. If I had a queen high suit here, I could consider opening this hand, but here I can just take my price. It's not a super high EV open here, I think. Opening this, opening this. Goes bet and call in this limped pot here. Queens, no redraw, no club, no nothing. Here, just check. Here, out of position here, we're going to play a very predominantly high checking strategy. And this hand kind of has no reason to bet. Here we open the aces, get called by in position player. We have a 9 high suit that isn't on the board. Just easy check fold. On the king is actually pretty good turn for us. But I don't think we ever start betting this hand. We just keep checking. Check this, check this. Here, I think it's a little bit too thin to go for block bet. Just gonna check and win a decent amount. Queen 10 9 4, facing the limp. I think we just play this hand as a check call. No pair blockers here. We can just do a lot of things. 9 8 7 7 double suited, kind of close to a 3-bet. I think this is just a fold. I think this from these positions I'm just calling here. Think it's I think these types of hands start 3-betting, but versus early position open. Also, this guy's short stack as well. That makes a huge difference. I think it's better to just play this one. And then with my 9 high kicker, I think it's close. Out of position and playing a 5-way pot, I don't really want to bet and have to face a raise with this type of a hand, but it's kind of dicey when the money starts getting into the middle. Here, facing a wide range versus a fish, we're just going to start off with an ace high. We're just going to stab that hand, turning a double gut shot. Here on the turn, now we're going to start betting. I think I'm going to go 6-12. We're just going to go for a third. I'm going to pot the turn here, turning a double gut shot. Interesting. We don't have a spade in our hand. Don't river anything. Don't river a pair blocker. I think this is going to be not great to follow through on river without a pair blocker. Not having a spade in my hand kind of makes me want to lean towards following through, but I think I'm going to give up this one. Here with the full house, I think it's a pretty easy decision to bet. So he does have, he's claiming to say he has some kind of 2-pair holding. Doesn't seem like he would have been folding. Here with the 9-8, I think I'm just gonna go half pot here. I don't think I'm gonna have that many bluffs here on this run out, so try to get called by some straights. Here with the bottom two pair in the limped pot, just gonna check and plan to check fold this one. So maybe I think I made a mistake, possibly double barreling that hand. This guy seems like a little bit of a stickier fish type of player, so perhaps we could have just avoided this hand when we just have the dry wrap with no flush blocker. I think it's just a really easy check call. I'm not going to be doing too much betting on this board. Here, I don't really like bluffing the spot. After he checks back, that's kind of interesting. I'm actually going to start betting on the turn here. I think he's going to be very capped and not have very much interaction at all on this turn card. So I'm going to go for it. Here, having the dry 7-3, I think this is kind of a disaster spot to start bluffing in like a four-way scenario. So I'm just going to give up here. If I try raising here and barreling through, I think it's just throwing away money a lot of the time. I think this guy's going to play pretty face up with his range and like play, yeah, he's going to be betting most of his high equity hands. I think this is a close spot pre-flop, but with the ante, I'm going to be opening this hand. I think it makes it in there. Facing a 3-bet though, this is going to be one of my more bottom of range hands, and I think I have a fold, especially versus a 4-bet. Here, King 5-6 facing a limp and an ISO. Actually, really close. I think this specific one is just good enough to start fitting into a flat. And immediately get punished by this guy who has 3-bet a few times. Yeah, this spot here, I think I'm gonna pass. I'm getting not a great price, out of position. Here, hand doesn't play that well in 3-bet pots. I think I'm going to pass on this spot. Definitely keen to see how wide this guy is 3-betting, though. If we do get to see a showdown here, easy check in the big blind. Bets half pot. I think he should be betting just a third here. I don't think he needs to size up that big. So that was interesting for sure. Folding this combo. This guy leads on the turn here. Not enough blockers, not enough value here. Just gonna fold. Here, I think limp and an ISO. I'm gonna defend this hand. Here, I played with this guy yesterday. It was very wide. I'm just gonna start off with a flat here. Don't want a 3-bet fold. He was like getting it in for like piles with. He was 4-betting pretty light, just getting in bad hands like. So just gonna flat this hand versus him. Here, first act, not that much connection to this board. No diamond. I have a bad gut shot here. I think I can stab for half pot here, or and I think this hand is fine. I would rather have a king or a queen of clubs, but I think this range is going to be pretty underprotected, so I think this is not unreasonable. He's got all right. So this short stack player calls. I think our hand should just check now and take our showdown value. And then on the river is going to be a really interesting spot if he bets. Does not bet. Okay. I think I just have the best hand now, and I think I can go for some thin value, and I'm gonna go for like a really small sizing targeting worse ace-x here on the river. But I really just don't think he ever has a better hand when he doesn't lead the river. I think it's super unlikely. So we do get called, and we do win. Oh, we do chop. Okay, that makes sense. He has very similar hand to us. Quite reasonable. Sucks to see this guy sitting out. It's definitely a fish. I like to see that these two players are short stacking. I think that's pretty good indicator at these stakes anyways that these are weaker players, so I like to see that. In higher stakes, a lot of the regulars do play a lot of short stack strategies because it's an advantage. Um, because you get denied off your equity a lot less when you're short stack. You can just realize your equity way more, whereas because you could just call. But when you're like 100 big blinds deep, you can easily get squeezed off the equity of your hand. But I don't think these two players who I haven't seen before are thinking at that level, or at least the verdict is still not out. Here, pretty fucking strong hand. Kind of sucks to get limp re-raised with this exact hand, but I think it's fine. I think we just ISO. We have a strong hand here. Starting off with just a half pot. He's not going to really connect that well. This smashes our range. He's short stack. This is definitely a hand that I would consider checking versus a deeper stack opponent, just because it really sucks facing a check raise with that hand, and our runouts don't improve that well. Um, Here, I think I can raise or I can complete. I think I'm gonna go with the limp call this time. I'm gonna do a high frequency limping strategy here with the ante in play. So, and this is a regular player. So gonna go ahead and proceed with that. Here, 8-4-3 flop. Not really gonna be leading this hand. I don't think it has the right blockers, but I do have enough equity to check call versus a bet. So that's what I'm gonna do. I have a backdoor flush draw. I have an overpair. I have a board pair. I can turn some good straight cards and a bunch of other stuff. Interesting to see. He's going to be pretty aggressive on this turn card, and with this hand, I'm just going to check fold. But he doesn't, and we river trips, which is interesting. So I think we're going to play a polar bet strategy on the river, which is going to be trips are better. And I think this hand is going to want to bet, and I'm going to bet big with my value hands here. And I have a lot of obvious bluffs in the region of 5, 6, 7 missed straight draws, etc. And I do get paid off, which is nice. Yeah, I'm gonna pick probably a two sizing approach there, like maybe some ace x type hands if I get to the river there. Here, queen 10 6 5. I'm just gonna fold this. Doesn't perform that well multi-way. But yeah, I'm gonna play a two sizing approach on the river there, and I'm gonna play like a block bet and a pot bet, and my pot bet is gonna be like my trips are better there, and my some of my misdraws that I decide to bluff with, uh, and then I'm gonna have some like ace highs, maybe some ace x two pair hands that are still good to value bet, and I'm gonna want to value bet some of those as well on the river, some ace x whatever, but because I'm blocking so much of his calling range when I do have the ace, I don't think I can go for a really big sizing. So I'd rather just go for a block bet there. I do need to take note of the fact that he is playing balanced here. I know that he's a regular player, but also he checked back the turn and then called the pot size river, so he clearly must have had very likely that he had an ace there, something that had showdown. So I can't just attack and expect his range to be very face up like I could some of the weaker players in this pool. Here, this is pretty easy 3-bet. Love playing these hands in 3-bet pots. Just so much playability. And can always call a 4-bet. And we get the king 8-3 flop. Interesting spot here. I think I can go. I think my hand prefers to check and retain its equity through a check call. I still have quite a few good turn cards. And he immediately checks back. Very interesting. On the turn heart, I still can just take my showdown value, and I don't expect him to bluff me off my hand very often, just because I'm so ace king ace ace heavy. Um, a river, a queen 8 type holding, still not good enough to value bet. Just going to check take our showdown. Almost okay. So it's one of those spots where if he does bet, kind of tempted to go for check raise there with the blockers, just because. Um, but I don't think it really makes that much sense. I don't really expect him to be bluffing that much on river. Um, on that exact river card, I think it's the problem is like what is he value betting? Like his value betting range is going to be pretty like polarized, I would say, in that spot. Um, and I think against that range, it's not going to be great to try and bluff through against it. Got to respond to a text from Sarah about the DMV. All right. So I don't think this hand is good enough to open if it folded to me with the 3 and the deuce. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like I would have just let this go. All these hands are pretty easy decisions. I think just having the 6-3 deuce is just not good enough uh, connectivity to open that hand even from the button. Those are just trash cards. All right. So what's going on here? This 50-cent $1 table. So I feel like these two players I've never seen before. These two players are regulars. These guys are likely going to be the fish at this table. Um, so still pretty reasonably good table to be at. Here 10 10 9 8, pretty easy open. Here I think this is just a fold. It's not going to be good enough even with an ante. Here a bit of a wider player here defends. We have a 10 high flush draw on an ace queen 7 board. He's going to connect with this board very aggressively, and because we have the 10 high suit and not a nutted draw, we're just going to check back this flop and try to realize. And facing a turn bet here, pretty trash spot here. I think this is just a fold. Um, we're close to dead against the value range of ace x plus, and some of his bluffs and bets are also like king queen jack with king high spades and stuff. Like just don't think we get to win that pot very often in that spot. We're just kind of checking back, hoping to see like a spade or maybe a straight card that we can represent, like a king or a jack or something like that, and we can use our tens blockers there. So this guy raises and then bets on this flop. Weird sizing here, going to take note of that. Probably a weaker player here. It's not also full stack. This hand isn't enough equity here, but I would start versus that mergey, smaller bet sizing. I might start feeling inclined to start attacking that with more parts of my range. I just don't think that hand I can really do too much with. But maybe some Jack X type holdings I might start raising there, thinking that he might be betting a more merger weaker part of his range for that small sizing. Here, limp ISO in the small blind. This hand is good enough to continue. I have an ace-high suit. I have reasonable connectivity. Um, yeah, pretty happy calling. All right, we flop a nut flush draw and a pair of sevens. Gonna open this king king jack 8. Here facing a bet, um, which he shouldn't really be betting too much on this board texture. Um, he might be overly c betting with ace X combinations, but I think that this hand just makes a lot of sense as a check call. He bets turn, which is interesting. King, jack, 8. Here I'm going to start off with a check. Against this player who I don't perceive as having a lot of fold equity, I could consider raising here, but I don't have a strong read on my opponent, so I'm just going to go ahead and check call. Going to fold this spot, and then he block bets the river, which is super interesting. Goes for half pot. He's kind of saying I have king here. My hand is very strong here. There's a lot of misdraws. He can have a lot of ace, queen, jack. He might even think his aces is good here in this line. I don't think my hand is strong enough to value raise the river. I expect to be good here a decent amount of the time because I think that the way he's constructing his c betting strategy was a little bit too wide in this spot from this recreational's perspective. I'm just going to go ahead and flick this call in. And yeah, beat a hand like king 6. So he kind of just doesn't know what he's doing on the turn there, on the river there. He's kind of just randomly betting uh, that hand. It's not really a value bet. It's kind of just weird. I'm glad that I didn't raise though, because he had a hand that had a ton of equity and would have been really strong against us, and bloating up a pot with that hand would not have been good. So here we flop aces. We have aces with a pair blocker and a low flush draw. I think I'm just gonna pot and get this in here. I can dominate a lot of holdings when we get it in here, like Jack X with the worst flush draw. It's not really good enough that I want to go for a smaller sizing, but I do have a hand that is I can stack off with there in that spot and do reasonably fine. So I think just pot, get it in there is the play there. And yeah. If this guy folds, I'm going to open the ace 9 6 deuce. I think this is quite close. So the ace jack 10 8 here single. I think this is connected enough that I'm going to want to squeeze. I'm a little bit worried about this guy short stacking, but this guy has been playing in the short sample size that we have a pretty wide VPIP. So I think I'm going to take this spot. This guy cold calls, which is bizarre. Ace 8 6 5 here. I think I'm going to call this hand in the ante format. He folds. Okay, that's good. Here the ace ace queen 8. Kind of an interesting one. Okay, so here I'm not. I think we're gonna start off with a check here and play check call on this flop. He does bet for pot. I think we're gonna call this hand, and then here on this flop texture, I think we're unfortunately stacking enough blockers where we just have to get it in here at this SPR of 2 and hope we get some folds. Call this one. This sucks a lot. So here we're just gonna have to check fold. Here, when they all get it in, it's a little bit annoying, but have to get it in here. But I just have too much equity here, unfortunately. And how are we almost fucking dead? The fuck this guy has. So this guy is. Oh wow. Here, ace 8 6 5. Versus this player who we think is betting too much. We're just gonna fold. We're gonna go for a raise here and try to get some value. 7 14 24. That was such a bizarre spot. Flopping middle pair, a 10 of clubs blocker. It is a really good board for the calling ranges for sure, which is one of the reasons why that spot sucked so much. But I felt like at that SPR, it was just too strong of a hand to do anything other than get it in. I have middle pair and a double gut shot at SPR of 2. I think I just have to side get it in there, but like I was so fucking, I was in such a shit spot there. It seems. Um, this guy cold called the 3-bet with king 10 9 8 single, which is bad, very bad. This hand it's very reasonable. He had Queen Jack with the clubs. But yeah, I just I won a side pot somehow. I don't even fucking know what happened in this hand. But yeah, it looks like we were all sharing the same kinds of draws, and he had a flush draw on top of that, and so my hand was not in a great spot. Definitely a spot worth checking, I feel like. Um, but I will stand by the fact that I don't think this is a big mistake. If I had just like ace, jack 10 without the 8, I would have check folded. Uh, I think, especially verse 2. But in that spot with the double gut shot, I think it's just too much equity. Here, jack 993. Pretty close. I do want to get involved with this recreational player. He seems quite wide here, playing 56% VPIP. And yeah, I think I'm with the ante with these pairs. I think I would have folded versus a normal player, but against this player, I'm just gonna want to get involved here. Facing a limp, this hand doesn't actually perform that well. Um, so yeah, Queen Jack 9-7. He's very wide. So I'm not actually sure. I would have opened this hand, I think. This is really close. This is really cuspy. Like, if this guy folded, I was considering whether or not to open this hand, but facing a limp, I think this hand is just going to go multi-way too much and perform quite poorly post-flop. So I'm just going to fold and get out of the way with that type of a hand. Uh, this guy raises. Yeah, I think single suit I would call this hand, but triple suit I think we just have a pretty easy fold. I played a spot here earlier against him that I didn't know what to do on the queen queen deuce with the king king jack 8. No flush draw, no backdoor suit, just dry kings facing a large bet from this player. Um, yeah, felt pretty cuspy in this spot, and I just ended up folding because I had a big decision on another table. I'm not sure about this spot. I think it's quite close. He is quite aggressive. He's very wide pre-flop, so perhaps I need to call once. It just I have so poor equity against the value range. Even if he has a flush draw, I'm not doing that great. And he also is probably going to be quite aggressive barreling, so I just think that might be a good spot to just avoid, especially versus the larger sizing. Here with Ace Jack 8-3. Flop is Ace 5-3. We have no 4, no deuce, no spade. I think starting off with a check here is quite reasonable with this hand class. On the turn here, I think we can start value betting our hand. He doesn't check again on turn. I think he's going to be pretty capped here. Get some values from some flush draws. Um, I think his turn checking range there is going to be super weak. So I'm just going to go ahead and bet on the turn there. Um, Flop C bet is fine. I think it's just better theoretically to check back that hand. Um, but I don't think I get punished super hard for C betting that hand from some of these players. So like the biggest downside with C betting that hand is when we do face a check raise. But I'm not sure how often that's really happening. So this hand, it was limp from seemingly a loose passive recreational. So here on this flop texture, I think we have bottom pair with backdoor flush draw, queen of diamonds. Actually, I think this is actually fine to start c betting. I'm stacking a reasonable amount of blockers here, and I don't perform that well in the check down line. Shit, I missed this. Yeah, this one is definitely an open. Here on this turn card though, I'm going to proceed with a check. Here he bets, and I have 8 and a flush draw. I think I just call here. Here he leads the river here, which is interesting, and I do have the queen of diamonds. Kind of tempted to start raising this hand now. Here we just have a pretty easy call. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm gonna go for it. I think he might be betting too much hands that don't really make sense to go for it. It's hard for me to explain like a spot like this. Here we have a pretty easy fold on the river when we get there, but I think that half pot sizing doesn't scream a lot of value, and I think he might just be bun clicking with a 2 pair type holding that um, that he doesn't want to play check call with, but maybe he just thinks he's good, and maybe he just thinks, I have aces or whatever. Um, but I do see a lot that player type is just way too keen to overstab river with way too mergy of a range. So my idea there by raising is, first of all, I had the queen of diamonds, which is a good blocker. I see bet the flop and check back turn. I can definitely credibly represent nut flushes. Um, and his limp calling range is super wide there in that spot. So he's gonna have a lot more hands than just like the nut flush himself. He just gets there, and I also think, like I said, he stabs just way too much there on the river in that spot. It doesn't really make sense to do so. I just feel like I see that a lot, and yeah, that was my idea behind raising the river. So ace queen 6 5 6 high suit. I think this is not going to be a continue. This is a regular player, so I'm going to try and play as well as possible against him. Really hard to commentate while playing 4 tables as well and explain all my thought processes, because there's always decisions on either table going on. It's definitely a lot. I need to be faster about it. Here, this is kind of interesting. For versus an open. I'm already thinking right now about like whether or not I 3-bet this hand versus what position, or I just call this hand. I think it's a really close decision. I'll see what happens. Versus the early position open, I think I'm just gonna call this hand. And facing a 3-bet from this player type, oh, just flopping quads. That's nice. Just gonna fold. It's I don't know. I think that EP can 4-bet a lot, and that puts me in such a bad spot. Here, I think I can c-bet or check here. I think it's fine to do either. Here, I'm squeezing the jack 9 7 8. I think. Oh shit! I was gonna bet, but I was gonna bet because we have the ace 8 of spades, so we don't block any of the flush draw. So here on the river, I'm just going to call. I think it's close. Maybe could eke out some value from some other stuff. Here, jack 9 7 8. I think I'm too dominated here, facing a lead, and I have to reluctantly fold this hand. Here, I'm gonna go for a small river raise and just targeting king king. It's so hard for me to have a bluff here, but I mean, I'm gonna go for it anyways. Obviously, because I have quads and I need to try and get value. But I mean, I almost never expect to get called here unless this player's just playing so bad. Um, like, what can I really be bluffing with on the river here? I have to have a hand like a double paired hand that decided to check back flop. A hand like I have to have like 9955 or something and like call turn bet river, raise river. But yeah, I do expect to get fold there very often. We did win 10 or so big blinds in that pot by checking back the flop, which is not bad. This guy was kind of c betting too mergy of a range. Um, so whatever he had, it seemed like he was just stabbing and thinking his hand was good, but he probably should have just checked his hand, whatever he had. Um, I don't think any hand that wasn't quads there can really go for uh, two streets of value on turn and river in a three-way spot there, just because ace-x is so prevalent in all of our ranges. Here, the ace-9-8-7 triple suited, pretty close. Think I'm gonna lean towards aggression in this ante format. Um, yeah, I think this is a fine open. And then facing a three bet, this is one of the hands that I would just have a pretty easy decision just folding. Also, we want to get involved against this player, the recreational. Um, he just leads for pot, which is very interesting. Um, kind of a trash spot already. He's kind of saying, I have a 10. Um, I have a 10. Or better for value, or like a flush draw, perhaps, that he's bluffing with. I think this spot, because I just think he's quite aggressive with when it comes to barreling, I think I'm just gonna get out of the way. So yeah. Here, 774. I'm gonna start off with a very high frequency check here. Expect to get a lot of checkbacks, but I think this is just how my range wants to play. Here on the turn here, I think I'm gonna want to be checking. I don't have a 5, a 6, a 7. Um, I'm considering going for like a thin value bet on turn here, but I think there's more EV in inducing some bluffs and possibly going for just a river value bet. So he does go for the bet on turn here. Interesting. Um, I block a lot of hands that he can be bluffing with, like 9, 10, jack type hands. I think I just have a pretty easy call. Obviously with the flush draw as well. It's pretty easy. Then on the river here, think I'm going to actually just lead the river here for half pot. I think this is a really good river card for me, and I think he's not really gonna be super aggressive bluffing into us. Um, so yeah, and then if he does have a king king queen queen type hand, I think he's gonna be checking back a lot. So I'd rather just lead there. Um, on a card that's really good for me when I check call the turn. I think half pot does a really good job of targeting his king, king, queen, queen, and I can still have some like ace x missed flush draws that play that way that I want to bluff with. So I think it's reasonable. Do get paid there, which is nice. Here, facing a limp from a very wide player. This is just mandatory ISO. He's playing 70% of hands so far. Queen 7-9 deuce. I think this is just not connected enough, and also is worse of a call versus a short stack player there. You have to tread really cautiously post flop against these like super loose um, recreationals. You kind of can't get away with bluffing that much because they're going to be sticky with anything. Here, ace 10 7 king, gut shot, backdoor no flush draw. I think I'm just going to check and realize on the turn heart, I'm going to continue checking and trying to realize. Here, I turn a double gut shot. Um, but it's just a range that is just, oh man, this is trash. Um, yeah, just gonna be folding. I just don't see it as being super profitable looking for a lot of high aggression against these players because I just perceive them as being very sticky fish in a lot of situations. So I think being a little patient against those players. I did go for the other one earlier with ace queen 7-6, I think it was, on the flop. But in general, I think against that player type, I'm going to be just trying to pick the best blocker ones to go for. And out of position there, I don't need to be that aggressive anyways. But yeah, I think they're just going to be quite sticky. So our value of going for bluffs is just going to go diminish a lot. And we're just going to be getting called on flop and turn a lot there and getting to river spots where we don't know what to fucking do. So here against a pretty tight player, um, no backdoor flush draw. I'm actually fine just starting this hand off as a bet. Gonna bet a third here. He's gonna have some ace highs that are just gonna fold away on the flop, and then he is gonna have a lot of Broadway pairs here, but my hand doesn't care about bet folding. On the turn heart, that's not the card that I was looking for. I think on this turn heart, I'm just gonna check. He's gonna have backdoor hearts a lot. I don't have a heart. I was planning on barreling this hand quite aggressively and try to get him to fold like queens or kings, um, a reasonable amount. But on this turn card, I am just gonna check back, and then I would have wanted to barrel on a different turn card. So here on the river, I think we do have a pretty easy value bet. Um, just gonna go for a large sizing. And try to target some of his overpairs that don't believe me in this line. Um, and we do get the call, which is nice. Okay, so what I was saying about on the turn is in this exact spot, so even though I don't turn a flush draw ever, I want to block him from having backdoor flush draws that he turns. Um, and when I have, so basically a club is good, a spade or a diamond is okay, not great. But on the heart, because I don't have that suit at all, he's gonna have so many more overpairs with flush draws that are just gonna uh, continue no matter what I do. So the efficiency of me barreling goes down a lot. Um, so it matters in turn barreling spots, like a lot of like decisions like that. It's like what are our suits? Um, what hands do we want to barrel through? And that hand was had pretty trash showdown, had decent removal, blocking, having the 7-6 in our hand, blocking more trips. But perhaps the barrel just wouldn't have been very effective against this player anyways. He's quite a he's only V-pipping 23%. He seems like more of a nittier player and maybe he just has king king there too much that just always calls turn. So it's definitely a question. A lot of things to keep in mind there. But at the baseline, I'm trying to think about my suits. I'm trying to think about what makes sense for my range. How aggressive do I need to be there? Um, I do have a lot of aces there that can value bet flop and turn. Um, and therefore I need some bluffs. And a hand like that, no pair in our hand, kind of a shitty ace high, I think makes a lot of sense to be aggressive with. Here we have kings, king high suit. Gonna just call here in position. Keep his range wide. No real reason to three bet. This hand though, very strong aces. Yeah, we're gonna raise this up. Oh, nice. We flop a boat. It's just gonna be Pretty easy decision here for us on the flop. We're just gonna range bet for a third, I'm pretty sure. Here we have kings, no backdoor flush draw, no club blocker. Just very easy check. I mean, I'm checking almost my entire range here. In this spot. It does. Um, he calls, so I think he's likely to have a club draw or a seven. And I think I think I just want to go for value here. At especially at 25 cent, 50 cent. Here, I was gonna fold anyways, but um, yeah, just try to get value. From 7x. I don't think he's continuing with his club draws that he has. And I don't think he's bluffing them either if I check the turn there. Very often. So I just target his trips region and go from there. But 25 cent, 50 cent, I don't see them making a lot of tight folds. I think they're gonna want to call more often, so I'm just gonna want to put more money into the middle with my strong hands in general. Definitely could definitely have a decision, between checking or betting the turn, just because I have such a lockdown hand. But yeah, I think a lot of decisions are reasonable there. I think I can even go smaller than that. I think I can go a third pot and try to challenge more parts of his range. But I think he's going to be pretty elastic to just calling when he has trips and then folding almost everything else there on the turn. So I don't think there's a huge incentive unless I think that he's already folding trips on the turn, for the half pot sizing, which I don't really think is happening. But I think some better players will be aware that I have just aces there so much, um and maybe considering the fact that I'm double barreling, they will start folding some portions of that in the range. Here on the ace king seven here, no pair blocker. Um I think it's pretty close. Behind checking or betting. I'm gonna go for the check option without the king high flush draw. Um and then I'm going to go for delay on this turn card. I think it makes a lot of sense. He is playing 60% of hands, so he's going to have a lot of auto folds here. And even against an ace, I'm going to have equity. And when he does call the turn bet, I'm just giving up for sure. I think this is just way too strong of range that I'm attacking. Even if he does have a king X type of hand that he got sticky with, yeah, yeah, he's gonna have an ace extremely often here. Um, So just giving up river. But like I said, he's playing 60% of hands. He's going to have a lot more hands there on the turn that are not trips. I definitely could have considered flop c bet. I think without the nut flush draw out of position, I can. This is actually kind of close. I'm actually not sure what to do with this hand. Jack, Jack, 8 deuce. It's pretty bad connectivity. I think I'm just going to pass on this spot from this position. Definitely a spot worth checking later. Here, this is not going to be a continue. Um, Betting goes down slightly when I don't have the nut flush draw, just because he is going to have some continues that just completely dominate our holding, which sucks a lot. What I was considering though is it's just such a good board for my range. Um, since he's calling 60% of hands, I'm opening a tight early position range. So some conflicting factors there. Um, and yeah, I'm not really sure what is the best approach there. So I think in general, tend to try to play somewhat of a passive approach from out of position. Don't be too aggressive. Be a little bit selective. Um, and there, I think it's fine to delay bluff that hand. And yeah, I went from that. But if you were to tell me, hey, like you have to bet that flop there, it's just way too good against that opponent in that spot, I would have been like, yeah, that seems pretty reasonable too. Here, double paired hand, connected, pretty good, pretty good open call if anybody three bets. That's the plan. Hope to flop a set. Hope to flop quads. All right, interesting. Here with no, I think that we're just gonna check back this flop, even though it's a good board for our range. I think I'm gonna start off with a check here with the 4 high flush draw. I do improve a decent amount on various runouts. I can improve to a set. On a 4 or 3, I can turn a spade and have a disguised flush draw that I can call down with, but I don't block any of his ace, 10, 7, 8, 9, jack, and so he's just going to have a ton of continues here. So that's why I wanted to elect for the check back on the flop. Here, facing a limp from a wide player, I think over limping this hand is fine. And then here I can always, this player is also quite aggressive. Is he aggressive? No, I thought he was aggressive with 3-betting. But I can always limp call this hand. It plays quite well, but it really struggles in a 3-bet spot. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And we flop open ender and a 9 high flush draw and a backdoor flush draw. And face a snap check, which is interesting. Very interesting. This guy just thinks about it for a while and then elects for yeah, I'm just gonna start off with a bet. I think he's gonna struggle a lot with a lot of his range, a lot of his overpairs and stuff. And yeah, I'm just gonna bet. I'm just gonna bet. Here on the turn here, I have 2 flush draws. They're gonna have quite a wide range. I don't have a straight blocker, which kind of sucks. I think I can just call a re-raise though. Gonna go for a chunkier bet sizing. I get so many folds here, so I think it just outweighs the rare chance that we get check raised here. And now we make a straight on the river. Here I think these jacks are good enough to go for some value. So we make the 5-3 straight. We don't have an 8 in our hand, so we're just gonna check and beat a lot of hands. He had the 10-9-4. Okay, that's interesting. Here we play a 3-bet spot, have an 8 high flush draw. Here we're gonna check because this is a pretty bad board for our 3-betting range. I'm gonna proceed with a very high frequency check here on this board in a 3-bet pot. I'm gonna have a lot of like aces, kings that just really don't want to put money to the middle, and yeah, we're just gonna play check call. I think people can definitely stab a little bit too much on turns here, facing a passive line because they think that we just don't have anything. But yeah, I can also consider raising the flop. I think both options are valid. I think he's just confused right now. He's like, what does this guy have? He check called the flop. Now he's going to barrel through. So here the decision is, do we want to raise or do we want to just check call? And I think raise is the play here. We don't have a pair blocker. He can still have Jack 7, 7, 6 that he's misplaying. And we have a redraw, so when we get it in against Queen Jack, we can make a flush draw. So I'm just gonna go for the raise here on turn and try to get value with my strong hand. And he snap calls. And then on this river, it's weird what he's snap calling with. I don't know what that is, but I have the nuts, so I'm gonna go all in. And then he's not snap calling us. Does he have like ace X of diamonds, ace 10-9? Tank call is really good. Tank call is really good. Okay, wow, I got the super max there. That's awesome. That's a really good result. So we got him to stab with a hand that was basically drawing dead there on flop, which is nice. We got him to stab flop with the king 8-5-5, no blockers, and then he turned a set and value bet and then called the re-raise. and then paid off the river bet. So kind of just got the supermax in that spot. Really happy with how I played that hand. Um, yeah, sick. So that's what I'm saying. Like they're gonna stab even a hand as wide as King 8 5 5 versus a check because they just think you know it's a good board for their range. Um, and yeah, I think there's more value inducing bluffs from a very wide range um, than it is just check raising the flop. If we just check raise the flop, he would have just check folded. And but I can induce a lot of aggressive action on flop and turn there, even river. Here, triple suited version of this hand I think is just a fold. Um, so in those spots, I like to just protect my checking range and check call because there's so much EV in bluff catching. Not bluff catching, I guess, just inducing bluffs. Here, easy fold. What's going on here? Try to pay attention to the table, see what's going on. So this is open 3-bet call. Here, this is open 3-bet and then c-bet on the ace king 7, which you should probably just do with this entire range. Okay, get some nice queens here, double suited queens. Yeah, I think this is a decision between do we want to 3-bet, do we want to call? And I think the answer is like depending on who decides to open. Versus a button open, I would have for sure 3-bet queen, queen, jack 5 double suited. I think it's just way too strong. Here, with just the deuce in our hand, I think I'm just gonna fold the king 8-8. This could be a mistake. I'm not actually sure. With the ante, it's actually super close. Facing a raise for sure. Here, queen, queen, jack 5. We have no 10, 7, 8, 9. I think I'm gonna start off with a check. Go from there. How aggressive is this player? 50% WWSF. On the turn here, I'm going to go for half pot, get some value, deny some equity from draws and stuff. I think it's fine facing the check check. Facing a limp here, I think it's fine to ISO this hand. I have an ace and a king. And I don't really expect to get limp re-raised as much as I probably am supposed to be in theory. And that's what this hand really struggles with is getting limp re-raised. Like it really doesn't want to face a limp re-raise, but like an ISO. Seems fine. All right. This guy plays very fast. It's interesting. The other hand that we played, he like snap checked. Thought it was interesting. Here, I think limping to limp fold is what I think I'm gonna do. Feels like enough equity to play this hand in that manner. Could just be a fold pre-flop, I'm not sure, but I don't like limp calling this weak of a hand. If I had a king high suit, I would play that hand as a limp call. And then the 4 high suit, I think I can limp. I do get to limp a reasonable amount. I think it's around like I am V-pipping like 50-ish% of range in the small blind versus big blind node. So I do think that spot's reasonably close. But yeah, raising that hand just doesn't feel great playing that hand with king 4-4-3 out of position. And then limp calling that hand feels a little bit like I just don't have enough equity to play that hand in that way. But facing a good price in the small blind with an ante, I do have to try and fight for a lot of pots. So the way that we fight for more pots is by limping a wider range and yeah, and mixing in some limp folds just because we can't always just limp call. We want to VPIP a wider range. Yeah. Here, these double suited queens would not have been a 3-bet versus the open from the bun just because of the connectivity difference. Here, facing a small blind open, I think just calling as well is pretty standard. So he does bet the flop, which is interesting. He also bet pretty fast. I think I have a very easy continue. I have queens. I have 2 backdoor flush draws. And yeah. And on this turn card, I think we don't improve at all. We don't improve to a 5, a deuce, a heart, a club. Not exactly sure what his value range looks like in this spot. I just don't think I have enough equity to continue, so I'm just going to fold. He bet quite fast on flop and turn, which it wasn't really like a tough decision for him. He kind of just like knew what he was going to do right away, so I'm going to attribute him to a stronger portion of his range. Here, I think this is going to be a hand that I'm going to call versus open very often. Go from there. It's good enough to play. It's connected enough. I've got a nut suit. I got a pair. Doesn't want a 3-bet, of course. This hand class really suffers in a 3-bet line, but it's good enough to call. And fight for some pot share. And this is a board that we're going to be leading a lot out of the small blind. I think I just looked up this spot yesterday. Queen 10 deuce. It hits a lot of our hands, so we're going to play quite an aggressive leading strategy here in the small blind. I think probably closer to 40%. This exact hand will not be a candidate, and we are just going to check fold. But yeah, this board texture in the small blind, since my small blind flatting range is very condensed to Broadway hands, King King X type hands, Queen Queen, rundowns that don't want a 3-bet, like a hand like King Queen Jack 9 single suited is gonna be there a lot. So yeah, it's a very high frequency. It's really good for our very condensed flatting range, but that exact hand just doesn't have any equity. So King Jack 8-5 double suited. I just don't know. I really just don't know, but fuck it, I guess. We're gonna open. Uh, playing at a. How can I justify this? Playing at a soft table fish, probably a fish. I have no idea. I have no idea. These two guys are regulars, but hey, I got equity. I got playability. I can call a 3-bet. So facing this wide player again. Here I think I'm just gonna mostly want to play a range check, even against this player. I don't know. I really want to fight for some pot share in this hand. On the turn here, I'm just gonna go ahead and go for a larger bet. I think it makes a lot of sense. I have king high. I can get a bunch of ace highs to fold. I have an open ender. I'm facing a wide range. I think there's a lot of reasons. He's gonna have a lot of tens, jacks here that are gonna really hate their life. He's probably gonna continue all his queens, kings, I think. But I'm protected here. I still have 9x. I still have a lot of strong overpairs and stuff. Seems like he's gonna fold if he's taking this long. I don't think he's gonna do this and call. I think he just wants to use his entire time bank right now and make it seem like he has the hardest decision of his life. Good fold, dude. Good fold. Yeah, it's kind of a weird spot because 994. I was almost tempted to even just start leading the flop, just to attack that wide range. It just when I get called, I just have so little equity. So I prefer going for the delay line. I think it makes more sense theoretically. And I don't know if theory would actually go for the turn delay for that large of a sizing, just exploitatively against this fish with the wide range. I just want him to fold more, so I sized up. That was my thought process. It's not really much more than that. But I don't think I necessarily need to bet that big on turn with a lot of my range. I think I can just I think most of my ranges just gonna wanna bet smaller, like half pot or a third. But yeah, like I said, exploitatively against a fish, I'm willing to size a lot more freely just based on what I want him to do. Just gonna get out of the way with this hand. It's actually could just be a mistake, honestly. This spot's really close, facing an under the gun limp. Um, Getting a slightly worse price here. Here on the Queen Six Deuce, I'm gonna start off with a check call. Um, I am not doing a ton of betting here, but if I had a hand like uh Queen X here, Ace Ace Queen, I could see bet that hand. This hand kind of has too much equity to uh it just plays too poorly out of position for multiple streets. Here, Ace Queen Queen 8 facing this wide player. Actually don't know. This is kind of close. Face a double barrel too, which is quite interesting. Here, I think with the gut shot, we are just going to continue here, turning a little bit of equity. Don't think he has a lot of 3-4. Um, yeah, that's it. I just don't think he has a lot of 3-4. I actually don't think he's gonna bet a ton on this river, so I'm just gonna go for the half pot bet and try to target some of his two pairs and sets and type stuff. And that's what I'm gonna do. If I face a re-raise, then I think uh, I can just fold that hand because I just think he's gonna have a straight or a bluff. But I kind of want to bet the river there and lead just because it's so good for my range. That I think that he's gonna respond quite passively. Uh, he's gonna respond quite passively, and he's not gonna bet a ton. He's not gonna bluff on that river card. It's really good for me. He's gonna check back a lot of two pair. He might even get scared and check back a hand like 6-6 or 5-5, like a weaker set there. So I kind of want to just lead and get value. Um, so yeah, that's what I did, and I got value. So it seems like he had a hand that I really needed to hit that river card against. So yeah, hell yeah, go team. Interesting. Not a lot going on right now. Gonna probably wrap this up pretty soon. Go from there. Gotta go to the gym, Chris, soon. Yeah, just gonna wrap this one up right here. Thanks for watching.